from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on AgDay, crop prices rolled to new highs. Can the trend continue? Brazilian truckers strike over fuel costs, putting some exports on hold. And agribusiness sorting out the final acreage mix.
But the question is, will weather allow us to plant any more acres than what we were originally intended?
Missy Bowers managing pests on Farm Journal College TV. And meet the dairy woman helping the Indy 500 winner celebrate with a cold glass of milk.
AgDay, brought to you by the Chevy Silverado, the most dependable, longest-lasting full-size pickups on the road.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. As crop progress moves forward and global trade issues come into view, major grains make fresh market moves during Thursday's trade. November soybeans, December corn futures contracts trading right at their life of contract highs early Thursday. The market pulling back as the day went on, but traders say December corn near $4.25 is a major milestone for growers as planting progress rolls forward.
Maybe a little bit of technical selling here. I don't know that there's any news necessarily that helped to push the markets lower late in the day, but nevertheless, both markets unable to push through their previous highs. The rally this week in the soybean market has been largely attributed to the China news. You know, it was reported on Sunday that the U.S. and China would drop tariffs on either side that had been announced. And the important one to us, of course, is the soybean tariff. China had announced in April that they'd institute a 25% tariff on beans. That is no longer the case. So the trade is very much convinced that China will be back to the U.S. soybean market.
China encouraging its own state grain buyers to return to the U.S. market, while President Trump announcing a push to have China import an additional $25 billion in U.S. ag products. Now, that would be nearly double its current buy. Ag Secretary Sonny Perdue says it won't happen overnight and would likely take several years to reach that level. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin also saying China could double its energy purchases over the next 3 to 5 years, or between $50 and $60 billion a year. Now, China's Ministry of Commerce posting a statement saying China welcomes high-quality, competitive American products. The pork industry knows growing their market share is going to take time.
We know that there's oversupply in China. The domestic market is saturated in China. So we weren't anticipating that we'd be selling a lot of pigs in China this year anyway. But over the long term, it's a very important market for us. It has great potential. So obviously, we don't want to have markets that aren't available to us anywhere in the world.
Also in Washington, livestock haulers and cattlemen applauding a new bipartisan bill that changes recent electronic logging and hours of service rules from the Department of Transportation. Now, the Transporting Livestock Across America Safely Act exempts livestock haulers from mandatory hours of service and rest times that supporters say put livestock at risk, especially during the summer and winter months.
Once drivers are out of their hours, they can't just pull off on the side of the road and wait until their clock restarts. And as we well know, there's no rest stop for cattle. You can't load and unload or unload and then load in the middle of your trip. So it's very important to get these cattle to their destination as quickly and as safely as possible because there are no other alternatives.
Currently, livestock haulers are operating under an exemption. That exemption expires on September 30th. That's the sound in Brazil as truckers in several states block roads and highways in protest of higher diesel prices. Now, prices have risen steadily over the last year. The blockades halting assembly lines, causing delays in grain shipments and leading to shortages of food and fuel in the country. Beef giant JBS, along with nearly 80 pork and poultry plants, halting production due to the strike. That impacts about 50,000 tons of meat exports. Now, earlier this week, state oil company Petrobras announcing it would make a small price cut. Truckers say that's not enough. Rural health care in the spotlight in Washington this week. The Senate Finance Committee holding a hearing on rural health care in America on challenges and opportunities. Senators discussing the topic of Medicare and the struggle of high-performance health care on limited resources and how rural hospitals are under huge financial pressure.
Since 2010, 83 rural hospitals have closed their doors and hundreds more are in dire straits.
Wyden saying if the local hospital goes under, that means less emergency departments open during a crisis. GOP leaders setting a late June deadline to revisit the recently failed farm bill. But first, it's promised to vote on immigration legislation. The president already weighing in. He says he won't sign anything unless it includes funding for a wall and a very strong border security plan. Washington watchers say passing immigration is going to be a tall order.
As long as the conservatives in the House get to vote on their controversial immigration reform bill by Representative Bob Goodlatte, Republican from Virginia, then you'll have more House Republicans vote for the farm bill, and it looks like enough to get it through Congress.
So I think you're going to have a situation where the Senate is going to pass our farm bill, and it's going to go to the House of Representatives, and if they want a new farm bill, they'll have to accept the Senate bill, and if they don't accept the Senate bill, then we'll probably have to extend the 2014 farm bill until through the year 2019.
Farm Journal policy analyst Jim Wiesmeyer also saying multiple programs will run out of funding if there's an extension of the current farm bill. Grassley believes the Senate Ag Committee will release its version in the first or second week of June. Following the costliest hurricane season on record last year, it appears 2018 could be another active one. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration issuing its forecast, which calls for 10 to 16 named storms in the Atlantic and Caribbean basins. 5 to 9 could develop into hurricanes, and 1 to 4 could turn into major hurricanes like last year's Harvey, Irma, and Maria. NOAA says losses from those storms totaled $215 billion. Mike Hoffman joining us now with some photos from the farm to wrap up this week and today's crop comments. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Clinton. Bob Birdsell sending us some hail damage on one of the county fields in Stanberry, Missouri. USDA's crop progress report says 84% of corn is emerged in Missouri, 15 points above the 5-year average. And one of our viewers from Verdon, Illinois, showing us this picture on Twitter. The farmer had 4 inches of rain nearly a week ago. Soybeans he planted on May 11th are struggling after that downpour. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, not a lot this morning. The highest levels will be in New England. As we head through the afternoon, though, we'll get some in the southwest, the northern plains. And as we head into the day tomorrow, not a lot of wind to start once again. But as is typical this time of year, we'll see those winds increase from the northern plains, but especially into the Four Corner region, Southern California, and parts of the southeast. We'll have details on your forecast coming up in a few minutes. But first, here are some hometown temps.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
When we come back, we'll talk about planting and the ending acreage mix in farm country. And as the greatest racing spectacle gets ready to run in Indianapolis, we'll meet the dairy farmer who gets the honor to celebrate with the champ with a cold chug of milk. Ted Seifert, Zaner Ag Hedge, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk. Ted, let's talk about corn acres. And there was a lot of speculation before we started planting about how much beans would get in the ground, how many corn acres would get in the ground. Do we have to hit a certain target here to make all of this work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Clinton. You know, when we looked at the planting intentions survey, there was about 1.2 million acres that just weren't accounted for that, you know, we'd lost from year to year over the big three. The idea was if we got off to a great start in planting, we might see some of those acres come back. We did not get off to a great start in planting. April was one of the coldest Aprils we've ever seen, set records in many areas. So we're trying to catch up. Now we'll catch up very quickly, right. But the question is, will weather allow us to plant any more acres than what we were originally intending? And hopefully the answer is yes, because for corn, at 88 million acres, that could potentially be a rather tight balance sheet, especially with all the problems that we've seen down in South America. Argentina's crop has well publicized, had its issues. Right. Brazil is now starting to have some major issues, and if that continues, we might be seeing quite a bit more exports this year than what we saw last year, and more than what the trade is currently expecting. So ending stocks could shrink pretty quickly. I think corn really needs to get to 89, 90 million acres the market, the board is trying to buy that right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it trying to entice some of that in there?
Yeah, the strength in corn is during planting is sort of rare, and that is trying to entice as many of those acres as possible. The question is whether going to allow us to do that or not. We'll have to see.
Yeah. As you look out toward the harvest picture here, where does the planted acres get us in a carry out toward at the end of 2018?
Well, look at it this way: if we yield, the USDA's trendline yield is 174.
Right, which is really strong.
It's really strong, and each acre we gain, each million acres we gain, I should say, would add about 174 million bushels to the balance sheet.
Sure.
So if the swing of 2 million acres could be a swing of almost 300 million bushels. So, we want to try to add to that because we might be seeing 150 to 250 million bushels more in exports than what we were originally expecting.
Oh, interesting. Interesting dynamic as we get through planting season. Thanks, Ted.
Okay.
We'll be back with more AgDay just after this.
For professional marketing advice specifically tailored to your needs, call Zahner Ag Hedge at 312-277-0113.
Welcome back to AgDay. Meteorologist Mike Hoffman here looking at the drought monitor. And Mike, we can definitely see where that drought continues to linger, where it's building, and where we saw improvement, which is in the southeast.
Yeah, the southeast definitely saw improvement. Only 3 little spots of moderate drought left, but that's not the case in many parts of the plains. The worst areas continue to be obviously the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, parts of southwestern Kansas. In the plain states, that's been expanding a little eastward into northern Missouri, southern Iowa, parts of Illinois. It also continues to kind of be very dry in South Texas. And while we were improving things over the Dakotas, we're seeing things actually expand a bit more now. You haven't had a lot of rain lately, and that is a definite concern. Obviously, the drought continues back into the Four Corner region as well. Widespread extreme to exceptional drought in that area. Going back 4 weeks, you can see how things haven't changed a lot in those bad areas, but we need it to improve. It has improved in the southeast, like we pointed out. It's kind of come and gone in different places in South Texas, as you can see. And like I pointed out, it's starting to expand again, unfortunately, across the northern plains into the northern Mississippi River Valley. Here's the map this morning, and you can see a stationary front in the southeast. That'll be the focus for some mainly afternoon thunderstorms. High pressure from southern Great Lakes and Ohio Valley to the east coast, keeping things dry. A little bit of moisture with 2 fronts through the north and a very slow mover in northern California, putting down some rains in that area. Northern half of California and western Nevada later today, even parts of Oregon getting some moisture out of that one. You can see the hit and miss thunderstorms, southern and central Mississippi Valley. There can be some complexes of thunderstorms form in this situation in the far northern plains, and those can kind of take off toward the southeast. Our model trying to hint at one coming into Illinois, which would be good for parts of Illinois that could use the rain there. There's tomorrow morning. Haven't moved things around a whole lot, and we're not going to during the day tomorrow either, as you can see. Just those hit and miss showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the muggy air to the south of the stationary front, east of the cold front, and also out west. Precipitation estimates past 24 hours. Most of the heavier stuff's been in the southeast. We'll continue to see some more of that, as you can see, and that'll expand into parts of the Mississippi Valley and parts of the west. High temperatures today, very hot through the middle of the country. Still cool out west, and that's going to be the case for the next couple of days as well. Muggy for the central and southern plains, and the heat continues during the day tomorrow in those same areas. A little bit cooler in the northeast. That's because of a little trough trying to dig in there, but the ridge still kind of holding as we head through this holiday weekend. That Four Corner cutoff moves into the northern plains, northern lakes by later next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. Bismarck, North Dakota, first of all, lots of sunshine and hot today, high of 90. Vicksburg, Mississippi, muggy with a shower or thunderstorm pretty likely, high of 88. And Erie, Pennsylvania, a good deal of sunshine. It'll be pleasant, the afternoon high around 80.
When we come back, we'll talk about pest management during the growing season. Agronomist Missy Bowers here from Farm Journal College TV. And later, hold on to your seats. We're off to the Indy 500 to meet the woman and her cows, helping the winners celebrate victory this weekend. The crop is in, emergencies underway. Now come the pests. On Farm Journal College TV this morning, Missy Bauer talks about pest management during the season.
Missy, now we're in a field where there's a little bit of insect pressure out here, I guess both from grubs and from cutworms.
That's correct. We're in a no-till field, which a lot of times cutworm pressure might be heavier in a no-till environment, so you got to think about what your system's like and maybe point in the direction with your scouting. But we did some early season moth traps, which give us an indication of when we should be out here to do the timing. What we look for is the peak flight in the moth patterns, when the moths come in and lay their eggs.
Okay.
Then we track heat units from the time that we see that peak flight to give us an idea of when we would expect to start seeing cutting plants.
Okay.
We don't want to be out here too late, basically.
Right.
And when you deal with something like cutworm, it's a pretty low threshold. The threshold's about 3%, plants being fed on or cut. So when you start looking out here, if you did a stand count and you had 30,000 plants, so 30 in a row, you're 1,007 acre, that'd be one cut plant out of that.
Just one, wow.
Exactly, and we've got some pink flags in here just kind of showing where some plants have been cut or damaged. There's definitely above threshold in this no-till block that we have here.
Right. Grubs are a little different though, right?
Yeah, grubs are a little bit different. Grubs are a lot easier to handle on the front side, so before we plant, as far as with insecticides. Seed treatments sometimes can be a little weak. A lot of labels just say suppression for a seed treatment for white grubs. So if you know that you got a history of white grubs in certain areas, then that's probably where you need to do something at the time of planting.
It's typically a Farm Sense Friday, but today we're off to the races in the Indy 500.
In the Country, sponsored by Kubota. Tractors, hay tools, utility vehicles, mowers, and more. Visit KubotaUSA.com today.
According to USDA, there are roughly 180,000 dairy cows in Indiana. Well, this weekend, the dairy farmer on one Hoosier farm will stand out in a very special way as the official milk provider for the winner of the Indy 500. National reporter Betsy Gibbons stopped by the farm where the excitement is palpable.
Stationed in LaPorte County, Indiana, is Triple M Dairy, where milking and other familiar chores take place.
Come on, girls.
What may set this parlor apart is its longevity.
1909 this farm started.
And the woman who helps run it.
She came back in the parlor. She missed us.
That's Kim Minnick.
There's Luke. Hi.
Who, along with her husband Luke.
This is the 4-H pen. We kind of keep separate. They get a little special treatment. Cashmere, Unique, Utopia.
Make up the operation with their cattle and kids. This Memorial Day weekend, Kim will represent the dairy industry as the official milk woman of the Indianapolis 500, continuing the tradition of an Indiana dairy farmer, handing a cold glass of milk to the winning driver in victory lane. A tradition that dates back to 1933, when winner Louis Meyer requested a cold glass of buttermilk to quench his thirst.
The world sees the guy taking the big drink of milk at the end of the race, so anytime we can bring awareness to milk is great. Personally, for me, I'm hoping to be on Dancing with the Stars after my big, but I would totally do it if they ask, but.
It's a platform which fits her passion and infectious personality.
Will you vote for me?
Go viral. Minnick may tease about the fame and fortune.
And you know, I told my kids this is probably the last time they're ever gonna think I'm cool. They think it's a big deal. Mom gets to ride on the parade float and, so I'm eating it up. So I'm very, very excited, very honored to be able to do that.
But jokes aside, she understands the responsibility of sharing the industry and the passion she married into years ago.
It's been great. Luke and I moved up here back in 2009 and joined into the family business, and we're able to raise our family here, and it's been absolutely wonderful.
A message she continues to convey as a nurse practitioner off the farm.
I feel like I have a much better idea of nutrition. I'm able to talk to my patients about the importance of dairy, the importance of that vitamin D and calcium in their milk, and make sure that their bones stay nice and healthy. But I feel comfortable doing that now because I know that it's safe and I know where it comes from.
Now the woman who grew up in the suburbs.
I grew up about an hour from the track, so, used to go with my dad to the time trials.
Will soon have a refreshingly different connection to the track.
Well, it's pretty exciting. We're really looking forward to it. Oh, it's just a great way to represent dairy and a lot of fun for our family.
From the spotlight,
a ceremonial sip of milk and salute to the fans.
And back behind the scenes, this year's Indy 500 Milkwoman is ready for the race.
It's not a bad way to go, though.
Reporting in LaPorte County, Indiana, I'm Betsy Gibbon.
The Indy 500 drivers answer a survey ahead of the race about which type of milk they prefer, whole, 2% or skim. Kim will award the winning driver with the bottle, while the rookie milkman provides the winning chief mechanic and team owner with their bottles on race day. For all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.